Time can be a funny thing. It can feel abrasive, hard to keep grasp of, or it just feels like there's never enough of it. Or in the chance that we do have a lot of free time, we can feel like we get in the way of ourselves and really utilizing that time. Or if you look around life, like if you're in college like me, or if you ever had a job, it can be hard to keep track of time or feel like you have enough time to get the things that you want to get done while keeping a social life. And when having a social life, it can be really difficult managing your time and really feel like you're getting to spend time with everyone you want to spend time with, whether it's friends, families, or loved one, anything. And in the world we live in, well, we're always looking at clocks. Clocks are everywhere. They're on our tablets, our laptops, our phones, our TVs, they're anywhere in the city, and our cars even. And in the hustle and bustle of modern life, with the internet and everything, it can feel very overwhelming. And when you're trying to get done with the tasks and responsibilities you need to get done with, it can feel like there's a timer going off. Hell, we even wake up to alarm clocks every day. It's always annoying. But if there's one character that I think exemplifies the struggle of trying to manage your time under heavy circumstances, it would be none other than Ultraman, and his many iterations of the many different versions of Ultraman across all continuities. And that's why today at Tiger Drop Films, after my little spiel about the pressure of managing time in your life, well, I think that really applies to Ultraman and his iconic color timer. Join me today as I analyze the iconic color timer in my signature commentary style, as we get into the bottom of what makes the color timer such an incredible piece of Ultraman storytelling. While the first color timer with the original Ultraman may have been created just to ensure that they don't go over budget when filming the action scenes between Ultraman and his many foes, I still think that it's a worthy addition to what makes Ultraman, well, Ultraman. And throughout his many iterations, the color timer has gone through many different forms, even colors, and sound effects. But when you hear that signature beeping noise as Ultraman's power is depleting due to him being on Earth or other factors, it really helps escalate the fights. And it really feels like that Ultraman needs to get the job done. He needs to save the day, and he's got to do it fast. Sure, it may be intense and it may not be everyone's cup of tea depending on your style, but I still think that the color timer is an intuitive way to illustrate the intensity of the fights going on, and what makes Ultraman as a hero needing to be the guy that has to save the day. Just take a look at this scene from Ultraman Orb Origin, when Guy becomes Ultraman Orb for the first time, and just look at how the fight goes. Yeah, that was definitely his first day on the job, but I thought it was a really great way of illustrating that being Ultraman isn't easy, and getting a handle on the power certainly isn't, as well as forming a bond if you're Ultraman. And seeing an Ultraman just flat out fall on his back during his first get around and not even lasting a minute in the fight, it was pretty telling of the power of Ultraman and the color timer and what it indicates. And even recently in Ultraman Arc, there was an incredible two-parter where it shows that Arc, aka Rutian, if he talks to his human host Yuma for too long within their own little dimension, it will therefore drain his power in reality whenever he actually becomes Ultraman Arc. And we see that here. I'll show you. We even have an alien villain taunting Ultraman as he loses power, as he therefore loses the fight against the big monster Zatami. It's really interesting, and I like that throughout the years, as we saw here in Orb and Arc, shows that were made at least over a decade apart almost, we get to see how Ultraman's color timer can be used in different ways as a storytelling device. And the really cool thing that I think ties into ourselves as people trying to manage time is how sometimes it's an internal battle. As there are times when Ultraman is losing a fight against a horrible foe. However, if his human host really keeps trying and their bond is so strong, they can quite literally overcome time and the constraints of the color timer and keep pushing on. Because sometimes the color timer may not just be bound to, say, 3 minutes as it is with most Ultramen. No, it can mean other things. Sometimes it can just be a measure of willpower. And if an Ultraman is losing a fight and he's not really feeling sure of himself, it can be diminishing, hence the change from blue to a beat being red. And there's a lot of times throughout the franchise where I love it that the Ultraman and the host are truly in. They're both the same. They know each other. Which means that even if the color timer is going down as they're getting physically weaker or losing power, they can still muster the strength to get up and finish the fight and save the day. I think that using the color timer with that insight is a beautiful way to show that on a human level, even if we're facing horrible odds, we could still get up and we could still finish strong. Whatever that may be to you, whether it's a project you're trying to get done, some family matter you're trying to get through, or any other stress to life, that's how I like to interpret the color timer. And seeing it in a tokusatsu battle between Ultraman and Monster is just a great way to see it with imagination. The color timer can also show the severity of a situation that Ultraman can't just solve by punching, as we see here with Ultraman Taro, as Taro realizes that after he just killed the queen tortoise kaiju, he just left a baby tortoise without its mother, and soon the father, King Tortoise, comes to the battle as well, as they start attacking Taro, but he just won't fight back. He realizes what he's done, and I really like this. It shows that the Ultras have their own morality, and their own identity, of course. And I think this is a great way of showing that sometimes the Ultras have to adapt in the battle and use their own creativity, their own craftiness to make a solution. And here we see that Taro realizing that he did something not so noble and that the humans are yelling at him as well. It's really an intense situation. There's these multiple kaiju going on, there's a baby one, and what is Taro gonna do? Well, he decides to pick up the body of the queen tortoise and fly into space with her, and while at the same time contacting Ultra 7, who Ultra 7 comes down, helps pick out the now grown-up baby tortoise, and carries it into space as the king tortoise follows. I thought this was a clever way of resolving the situation in some way. He didn't really have to kill them, instead he just had to take them to another planet. And while sure, Taro still killed one of them, and he needed the help of Ultra 7, because you know, Ultra 7 always likes to show up and everything, it was still a cool way to resolve the conflict. It may have been messy since there was still a lot of destruction, but these are giant monsters we're talking about. There still had to be some kind of solution. And Ultraman Taro as a TV show is such an amazing show that really highlights all the different ways that a problem can be solved with imagination and sometimes just listening to the kids that are experiencing these events. And Taro is just a really fun way to experience a new side of Ultraman. So as we saw in this episode, Ultra 7 stepped in to help, and it's always cool when another Ultra comes to help, but sometimes they're not always the most friendly, which brings me to Ultraman Gaia, where there's an episode where Al Ghul steps in to help Gaia after his color timer is going off, because the threat of this episode was pretty eerie. It was a kaiju that was using a whole town of people as marionettes, or puppets, and they're kind of zombie-like in a way, like they're in a trance. It's pretty eerie, and it shows the length that some kaiju will go just to try to win over humanity and defeat them. It's frightening. And I really like how we got to see Gaia, of course, go into the fight. He's doing well at first, but then he starts to kind of falter, as he's still trying to become Gaia, where Gamu is still new to being Ultraman, so Gamu isn't really as tuned into his powers as Fujimiya is with Al Ghul. As the fight goes on, Agul steps in and he ultimately helps defeat the monster, but then he just leaves. And we're left with Gaia standing there as the color timer is beeping red against the night sky, and he just depowers back to Gamu in the middle of the town. It's really an interesting fight as the show is developing. We get to see two Ultras not on the same page as we saw earlier with Taro and Ultra 7. However, there's still a story there, and I like that, as we even saw with Ultraman Orb earlier in the video. When an Ultra is still starting out, they're not going to have the best skill set, the best knowledge and understanding of their own powers, and it's going to take a lot of work to really get a hold of that color timer, that indicator, but it still really works here. And keep in mind that even if the color timer goes out on an Ultraman and he's defeated, there's still ways to bring him back, whether it's the willpower and dreams and cheers of the people, or other factors such as him realizing his own individual power, or just the sheer bravado of getting back to finish the fight Rocky style. There's a lot of ways that the color timer can be overcome, or undone, so to speak. Another detail I like of the color timer is that in addition to its flashing and its beeping when it turns red, it can also signify the heartbeat of the hero, as the heart's beating faster, as it may use all of its power, or it's just really trying to finish the fight. And if you ever played Dead Rising, then I feel like that is a game that is also about going against the clock, whether it's Dead Rising 1 or Off the Record, my two favorites. The idea of having to fight against the clock and save the day is just really fascinating, and it really just, keeps your body ready to finish the fight. And I think that kind of applies here with Ultraman. In Dead Rising you had Frank West with his watch trying to go against the clock and finish the case, get to the truth. And here with any of the Ultras, you have a guy just trying to finish this fight and his required time limit. And it just really makes the conflict more interesting, for me at least. Because Ultraman has to get creative in how they finish out the foe. Sometimes they can't just use their own Spacium Ray, sometimes they have to use another method. Including here, in the original Ultraman, the one that started it all, where towards the end of the show we get to see Ultraman fight Geronimon. And what I really like here with this arc, as I'm sure other YouTubers have talked about, is that it shows that humanity can still fend for themselves. But in this particular fight, we get some brilliant imagery of showing Ultraman using the Spacium Ray against a bunch of feathers and doing a whole 360 shot, and even drops down to tear off the feathers off of Geronimon. What really stands out to me in this fight is that this is the original color timer. He has to adhere to 3 minutes, but he really gets to use a bunch of abilities against Geronimon, even using Geronimon's own powers against him. And as the fight's coming to a close, Ultraman's color timer is going off. But it's clear that Ultraman could just finish off Geronimon right here. He won. He's holding him. However, he understands that Ide has been feeling down lately. Ide has been disenfranchised with the fight against monsters and the pursuit of scientific discovery. So, even though he could finish off Geronimon right here, Ultraman just holds him and he acknowledges Ide. And he allows Ide to take out his gun and finish off Geronimon. And you can just see from Ide's reaction that he's so happy, he really felt fulfilled, he did something for the team. And it wasn't just Ultraman flying in to save the day like he always does. I love this. Whenever Ultraman just nods as he acknowledges someone and allows them to help him, is great. It's like knowing that even if you can get something done, it can feel even better stepping back and doing it with others, especially people you care about and have a connection with. And I think that's what is the real highlight of this Geronimon episode, is Ultraman knowing that even if he could just do it himself, he understands that his teammates need it more than he does. And as the color timer, again, that color timer is going off in this very scene, he takes time to do something even better, the true right thing. And I like that a lot. It really brings Ultraman down to earth. There are a bunch of other examples from throughout this gigantic franchise that I could have talked about today to break down the color timer and its many different uses throughout the series, but I think that the examples I use today kind of show the variety of the color timer in of itself. And there's many others that you guys can let me know of in the comments. Your own experiences of Ultraman and your own favorite uses of the color timer. Like, I could have even talked about how in the first Netflix Ultraman, the one based off the manga, the color timer in that show had to be released as that Ultraman would use his full power, even though he would still depower after using it. So there's so many other examples of the color timer throughout the franchise. Heck, even Shin Ultraman went the original plan of not having a color timer, but as we saw in that movie, they still had to have it in some way, just not directly. As in that film, Shin Ultraman would still lose power after fighting for too long, so it makes it think that, yeah, the color timer is just an integral part to Ultraman's character, even if it doesn't, well, explicitly show up on his body. So, thank you guys so much for watching, and today I'm going to go back to talking about another favorite franchise of mine, that being Ultraman. It's been a hot minute since I've made an Ultraman related video, and I thought now is a great time. You see, the latest animated Ultraman film, that being Ultraman Rising, recently hit Netflix, and I'm glad it's been getting a lot of praise because I was pleasantly surprised, and I definitely believe it deserves all the praise it's getting. I genuinely had a great time with this film, and it pulled at the heartstrings in all the right ways. I just overall had a great time watching it with my two brothers. And as an older brother myself, I gotta say, I truly felt something with this film. But anyway, I want to use this video as a way to sort of review the film briefly, but also as a way to help people find other Ultraman films to watch. If they really liked Rising and they're new to the franchise, maybe you're just a new fan who's always liked Godzilla and you want to check out the brother franchise of 2 Godzilla, that being Ultraman. Or maybe you're a parent who watched Ultraman Rising with your kid, and you want to see what other films to check out before everyone gets into all the many Ultraman TV shows. So without further ado, let's get into it. So if you've just watched Ultraman Rising, then I highly recommend 2001's Ultraman Cosmos First Contact. It's a really great film, and it really explores just how much Ultraman means to kids. The protagonist of this film is Musashi, and he would grow up to be the protagonist of, well, the Ultraman Cosmos TV show. But in the film, it really explores Musashi and his friends looking up to Ultraman and the eventual battle and conflict with the alien Volton race. It's a really fascinating film, and if you want a deeper coverage of it, then check out me and my buddies' podcast, G-Force, a kaiju podcast. In it, we go more in depth about the themes of the film, but overall, Ultraman Cosmos as a concept is an Ultraman built around peace, and finding some kind of meaningful ground to stand on with your enemies, and hopefully resolving things without using too much violence. But with that in mind and the focus on kids and having a unique blue Ultraman design of some great tokusatsu effects, Ultraman Cosmos The First Contact is also a really good introduction in general to Ultraman. And the film itself serves as a spiritual reimagining of episode 2 of the original Showa 1966 Ultraman series. So yeah, I definitely recommend this film. Next we have, well, 2004's Ultraman The Next, a film that I've also covered already on my channel. Here's the video if you want to check it out. But The Next is a film that I believe there should be some viewer discretion advised if you're a parent showing a kid, because there is some slight gruesome imagery in this film. It's nothing major, but there's a bit of uncanny value to it that just be on the lookout for. It's not too much, but want to let you know. But with that aside, The Next is a very personal film, and if you really liked the family and fatherhood themes of Ultraman Rising, then you're gonna love The Next. The tokusatsu and CGI effects are stellar in this film, and much like with Cosmos, Ultraman The Next is a reimagining of a classic Ultraman episode, with that being the very first episode of the original Ultraman show, where he fights a monster named Bimilar, that is sort of recreated in this film. As The Next is the classic story about people's lives being interrupted by kaiju, and it's just generally a really fascinating take on the idea of man and Ultra bonding to become Ultraman versus a monster on the loose. It's really good stuff. And like I said, there's really great themes about family and bonds, and It also incorporates why, once again, kids and adults like Ultraman. So I highly recommend Ultraman the Next. And if you end up liking the Next, then I very much recommend the following TV series, Ultraman Nexus. It's a very good show. For the next film I want to bring up, it would have to be Shin Ultraman. Now, why is that? It's also one I've covered more in depth in a past video. Here it is on the screen. But I believe that Shin Ultraman can be a really good starting point if you just kind of go into it thinking that there is going to be some things you're not really going to understand. By that I mean that Shin Ultraman is a film that you kind of have to have a little bit of familiarity with Ultraman, more so than Shin Godzilla was. But even with that in mind, you can still really enjoy Shin Ultraman if you just want to see really great special effects, a strong human cast, and a very good theme about humanity growing up and defending itself, and just overall the human experience being worth it. That is what I would consider the main themes of the film to be. And you get a really great recreation of the original Ultraman. Then we get some classic episodes reimagined and a new plot, kind of like what I mentioned. Cosmos and the Next were also films that reimagined certain things about the original show. Well, Shin Ultraman double downs on that by having Ultraman that looks way more like the original, including music and just a bunch of foes that we haven't seen in a while. It's a really good watch if you just want to see a more modern looking Ultraman, kind of like Ultraman Rising. So by now I've brought up 3 films that you can check out if you saw Ultraman Rising. However, there is 2 more that go hand in hand that I think could be a pretty interesting breakthrough into the franchise if you're still new to it and you just really, love Godzilla, Gamera, or just any other tokusatsu franchise. And I do think that Ultra Galaxy Fight: The Absolute Conspiracy and its direct sequel, Ultra Galaxy Fight: The Destined Crossroad, can be a really great time. And I only say that because I think that these 2 projects are just a crash course and just getting bombarded with a bunch of amazing Ultramen from the franchise's legacy. And you can find these 2 on YouTube directly, especially the fact that they have English dubs. And I do think that The Absolute Conspiracy and The Destined Crossroad could be a really great place to just experience a multitude of Ultramen and Ultra Women in tokusatsu form. And it's just Ultras, by the way. There's no humans in these 2 projects, which is interesting. Kind of like how Godzilla X Kong New Empire kind of focused more on the kaiju. That's kind of what these 2 projects are for Ultraman. And you get not only a greatest hits of reoccurring Ultras, but you get a bunch of villains that are brought back for really good fist fights, I gotta say. The music's great, the effects are amazing. Like, these 2 projects are primarily in green screen, but it's hard to tell. That's how far the compositing is gotten in this franchise, and it's really good. So I definitely recommend The Absolute Conspiracy and The Destined Crossroad. Once again, you can find them both on the official Ultraman channel, and they also include English dubs if you want that. So yeah, if you just want to enjoy a bunch of Ultras fighting, then yeah, I would definitely say these 2 films, because they are pretty just unique. You don't really have to know too much of the lore, and while if you did, it would make it a better experience. You can still just kind of jump into it, and they'll tell you who every Ultra is, and you get to see so many cool powers and just dynamics and relationships on screen. And it's fan service, but I think that if you just want to experience Ultraman as a whole, then this is a really awesome place to go. So I've talked about some pretty good starting points film-wise for Ultraman. Of course, you can pretty much jump into any TV show. Keep that in mind. Any TV show. They're all pretty standalone. Just go to YouTube, find that first episode of some show that catches your eye, and you can start there. Really, I mean it. You can ask any other Ultraman fan and they'll tell you the same thing. But I always thought that since Ultraman Rising was a film that was standalone, then I thought some of these projects could be a pretty good place just if you want to experience Ultraman for the first couple times. But now I want to go into a little quick, mild spoiler review for Ultraman Rising. I just gotta get off my chest. So, here we go. Like I said, I loved watching Ultraman Rising with my brothers. I was pleasantly surprised with this, and I'm happy it honored the heart of Ultraman's legacy. The film itself also had some light bite to it, with violence, cursing, and an ice bath with beer that I appreciate, since Ultraman has always been about capturing the real world just like his brother franchise, Godzilla. The film also did new things with Ultraman and the kaiju and animation that truly took advantage of this medium. For instance, the scene on the little Ultraman cave, or Ken is having to pick up Emmy over the little, I guess, fish tank he put her in to kind of just keep her there. Some really just nice shots and just scope of the scene that would be hard to do in anything else except animation. So I'm really happy the film took advantage of being an animated feature. Ultraman himself having pupils and being able to talk as the man through the Ultra is something we don't see too often, but it works well here. Usually it's just the separate entity of the Ultra and then the human host they find, or the Ultra creates a human host, but here it just seems to be honestly just an alter ego for Ken Sato, and I really like that. It's a nice little breath of fresh air, and Ultraman having blue eyes is pretty cool too. And I find it interesting that much like Shin and other Ultra films I mentioned, like Cosmos and the Next, that also can serve as an introduction to the character, Rising on the other hand barely explains where Ultraman came from. It just rolls with him being a force of good, but it looks like a sequel will explore this more. And I gotta say, the fact that I saw the Godzilla victory jump from 1965's Invasion of Astro Monster be straight up recreated in this film in 2024 had me grinning like a madman. That was beautiful. The fact that Emmy recreated that jump just made my day. If you think about it, we saw Godzilla's dropkick return in last year's versus Megalon short film, so it's just great seeing all these parts of Godzilla's moveset catalog return in glory and just pure sincerity. I like it. When it comes to our protagonist Ken Sato, I really liked his bond of Emmy, the little kaiju. It was endearing, and it pulled at the heartstrings several times. Like I said, I have younger brothers, so this film really tugged at my heartstrings. And with that in mind, Ultraman Rising even made me feel empathy for an AI character, which is hard to do for me. I also adore that this film was about humans versus Ultraman. It's a plotline throughout the franchise that adds a nice complexity to the world these characters inhabit. And kudos to Christopher Sean's amazing performance as Ken. And now we also have had Tamlin Tomita in both an Ultraman and Godzilla project within the past year, which is awesome. I'm happy to see Tomita in more stuff too. And yeah, Christopher Sean's voice was amazing. He really sold me as Ken, from his humor, his seriousness, and to his just overall emotional core and his connection with his father, Ultraman Dad. It really added a lot of flavor to the film that I appreciated. And I love that the Ultra Dad, when he came back in his Ultraman form, he had a mustache. That was great. Reminded me of Father of Ultra or Ultraman King. Good stuff. So overall, yeah, the animation was incredible, and I did enjoy the music, and the fights were really good, and just the character emotion, and just the overall scope, and all these scenes, the scale, the lighting, it's just the overall dynamism, Ultraman Dana, really good. I loved it. So overall, Ken's relationships and connections, his bonds with his Ultra Dad, Ami, Mina, and Emmy sold me on the story. I'm looking forward to sequels. What a time to be a kaiju fan. Should watch.
Hey guys! Look what I found at the bottom of my drink! It's a cartoon!
Hello and welcome back to Tiger Drop Films. Probably wondering, why am I in this closet? Well, it's this simple. My roommates are kinda loud. They're always, drinking. I'm not drinking right now because I have to make this video, but that's why I'm in my closet. I just want to take a quick few seconds of the intro to thank you, all of you for watching my content. Really, I appreciate it. It means a lot, and it gives me incentive to keep going with making YouTube videos. So, thank you guys so much. And without further ado, let's get into part 2 of why Ultraman songs are so inspiring. Now is a great time to be an Ultraman fan, as we've had 3 TV shows and a few films released this year already, with more to come. And what better way to discuss the heroics of the Ultraman franchise than the theme songs themselves? If you want to check out my first video over this topic, I highly recommend it. It released about 8 months ago, but I have a playlist on my channel. That way, if there's any songs you might have wanted me to cover that are not in this one, then they might be in that one. Keep in mind that I'm not a Japanese speaker, so my thoughts can only rely on a combination of multiple translations and the feel of the songs themselves. I'll be crediting the translation sources from the likes of Ultrafan here, Sidurksar, and many others. And I gotta give a shout out to the homie Sidurksar. Congrats on being noticed by Ultraman Connection, man. That's awesome. So without further ado, get into your favorite strike team ship, and let's return to the world of Ultraman music. First, let's start with the Return of Ultraman theme song in honor of Jiro Dan. The character of Hideki Go in Ultraman Jack is a personal favorite of mine in the Showa era, for I found their story emotionally gripping as it was inspiring. Hideki Go went through multiple hardships and tests that were brutal first for the franchise, and I really adore how his determination is reflected in the movements of Ultraman Jack himself. They don't have to directly interact often, but you can tell from visual storytelling that they're bonded as one. The cool thing about the Return of Ultraman opening theme song is that it's sung by Jiro Dan himself, backed by a chorus of kids singing along. It's pretty sweet to have these kids singing alongside their new hero. I can only describe the melody and structure as a battle-hardened hero, flying back from his ending in a sunset to help others, to continue fighting monsters and aliens on a new mission to save more burning cities, as the song puts it. What I mean is that it's fitting that the song's feeling captures the idea of the return of Ultraman, as the new hero Jack comes to help humanity. In hindsight, it also fits beautiful that the first lyric of the song is, "You too see it, the Ultra Star," since the Ultra Star and the idea of Ultra Oaths is a recurring part of the Return of Ultraman. The show even ends in Ultraman Jack flying into space and into a star. I love how the song brings up the Meteor Punch and Ultra Chop as moves he uses against Kaiju. It's cool how it organically fits into the lyrics. As the song continues, the imagery of the shining star returns, and we hear Jiro Dan sing proudly alongside the choir about Ultraman's mission to protect justice and peace. The Return of Ultraman song, or Karakita Ultraman, ultimately does a tremendously awesome job at reminding the audience of Ultraman's mission and purpose, as it does setting up his amazing return you're about to experience. From the song's enchanting opening that draws you in to the heroic long note that Jiro Dan sings as the song comes to a close, this theme is one that generally captures the feelings of hope and sorrow that comes with being Ultraman. But no matter what, the sun will rise again, and so will Ultraman Jack. Thank you, Jiro Dan, for all the memories you've given fans of Hideki Go. A character shows that there will always be a reason to get up again after everything one has endured. The 5 Ultra Oaths still being used today is all thanks to you. For the next song, I like to cover the theme of the Superior 8 Ultra Brothers film, Light in Your Heart, by V6. This song is rather poetic, as it was the end of an era of Ultraman. Played for a film where the new guy at the time, Mebius, truly brought together 4 of the legendary Showa Ultra Brothers to equally legendary Tiga Dynagaya Trio. And to have the musical group V6 return after their amazing Take Me Higher song from Tiga is icing on an already fantastic cake. Light in Your Heart plays during the credits after we see the 7 Legacy Ultras travel to the Land of Light with their loved ones. It's another ending from the Heisei era that manages to bring a tear to my eye. I don't know how Supros managed to do that for pretty much every take on Ultraman during this time. And now, after the loss of Jiro Dan, I find the ending of Superior 8 Ultra Brothers to especially hit hard, because in a way he really is in the Land of Light. But I always find the ending of the film to represent that the Ultra Heroes are still out there, and will always be able to cheer them on. If I had to summarize the meaning of the song, it'd be this: no matter how much heartbreaking pain you feel, don't forget that the light in your heart is still there. And it's true, in addition to how the song brings up hope towards the future. Change can only happen if one's heart realizes the light that is there, and it's up to the individual to strive towards achieving it. Look at Gamu's small arc in the film. He's able to realize his dream and potential and strive towards the goal of creating an anti-gravity system, which is how our cast is able to travel to the Land of Light in the end. This idea of hope and realizing one's light is seen of all of our Ultra heroes, from the Showa Ultras to Tiga Dynagaya and Mebius. I love how the film's first act shows the classic Ultras being these elders who live close to each other and hold get-togethers with the Heisei Trio, including everyone's wives and kids, because by the end of the film it makes it all the more sweet and sincere to see the classic Strike Team jets flying alongside the Heisei hosts. So V6's Light in Your Heart is a poetic ending song for this era of Ultraman, in a film that celebrated why people love Ultraman in the first place, as the very meta story, in all the right ways. A film that made Ultraman feel close to home, while inspiring its viewers to pursue their goals in the real world. The upbeat nature of Light in Your Heart and its bona fide lyrics of veritable hope is one I hope can inspire you whenever you need a power boost. Speaking of Ultraman Mebius, let's analyze his titular theme song. Here's the verse that I've discovered resonates with many fans. I don't want to give up love in a world of sadness. That verse can be translated in different ways, but the fact that each outcome touches the soul says a lot. The Mebius theme perfectly incorporates the symbolism of infinity into the lyrics. By that I mean how the song describes that no one is a hero in the beginning, but throughout the pain and hardships in life we can dry our tears and believe in others. People can become heroes through that, and they don't have to do it alone. Mebius' song paints in words how people are like stars in the sense that we're perhaps alone at first, but we can light up each other's lives. We see this in the show where in the finale, he becomes Mebius Phoenix Brave, after bonding with his friends from Guys as well as fellow Ultraman Hikari. It's a beautiful scene that I think encapsulates what makes Ultraman Mebius unique. As a 40th anniversary Ultra show that properly returns the Showa era timeline to inspire kids and old fans alike. Mebius is also an Ultraman who has to start his journey from scratch, and learn through trials and tribulations on what it means to be an Ultraman. Like the song states, nobody is a hero from the beginning, but they can grow into one. I'll end this section over Mebius with this verse. Now let's continue with M87 from Shin Ultraman.
遥か空の星がひどく輝いて見えたから僕は震えながら
Hearing this song in the theater was fantastic to say the least. Now, as we dive into this song, I'd like to first go over how Hideki Anno's writing can be a bit unconventional. I'll explain. Anno did not write the M87 song. That was Kenshi Yanazu, who also sung the song. He's very popular in Japan from my understanding. Handsome devil. Maybe I'll fight him on the stage one day. Anyway. Anno wrote Shin Ultraman, which was directed by his homie Shinji Higuchi. But Anno's writing is known for being more on the depressing and nihilistic side. But that's not to say he doesn't have his own sense of humor, as he definitely does if you've seen Shin Kamen Rider especially. But the more somber side of his writing and characters is why I was personally thrown off by Shin Ultraman's human host, Shinji Kaminaga at first, because he wasn't upbeat or at the very least as broadly charismatic as they show our Ultra host who's supposed to be more in lieu with. But I wanted to touch on that more somber side of his writing, because the M87 song does sound like it's from the perspective of someone seeing Kaminaga or Shin Ultraman himself. Now let's take a look. You see, Kaminaga is similar to other Anno protagonists in the sense that he's more mellow and despondent compared to what we know Ultra host, as they're usually outgoing and pretty social. I see the M87 song as Shin Ultraman himself, making an impact on someone's life who's seen him in action. Take these lyrics. If you so wish, he'll come to your aid of everything he has. For while Shin Ultraman is still doing the right thing, he's a more quiet Ultraman that is put up against a world of aliens who don't see what his purpose truly is. But ultimately, he cares for Earth and humanity no matter what, even if it means going against his superior in rank, Zoffy. I really appreciate how Shin Ultraman stands for humanity, because he understands that one life can mean the world. So he's fallen in love with Earth. M87 especially becomes a memorable and inspiring song due to all the apocalyptic tracks, with choirs that composer Shiro Sagusu made for the film. After hearing themes such as An Out-of-Body State or Is Humanity to Die, and the film ending with Ultraman's supposed quote-unquote sacrifice, the tired but persevering beauty of M87 is stellar. Kenshi Yanasu's voice transcends the song into another level. Here's my favorite part of the song. It's also interesting to note that M87 is, of course, Ultraman Zoffy's signature move. So when I brought up how this song could be from the perspective of someone who inspired someone else, maybe Zoffy was inspired by Ultraman's actions in the film. Speaking of a song that doesn't directly state Ultraman's name, let's discuss the first Ultraman Nexus song, AU. Sorry if I mispronounced that. The song was performed by the rock band Doa and written by member Akihito Tokunaga. First of all, this song is pure early 2000s magic, and I just can't stop banging my head to it. AU can appeal to our desires to find motivation and our angst when we lose said motivation. I also like how the song states that both men and women alike must be strong for others. If you include Nexus' appearance in Ultraman X, then he's had 2 hosts who are women. According to different translations I found, EU can mean hero in Japanese, and then I realized that in the song itself you can hear the singer say AU, so it definitely means hero. This could be fitting since throughout the course of the Ultraman Nexus show, multiple people take on the role as Ultraman's host. Nexus is all about the bonds between people, with these especially seen in the finale of the show, where Nexus goes through all of his forms before evolving into Noah. But he was only able to do this through the people of Earth, believing in Ultraman as a friend and ally, and in Kazuki Kaman becoming the last Dunamist. I talked about Ultraman and Nex in the previous video, premise of Ultraman the Nex, as well as mentioning it in the tie-in song Never Goodbye in my first Ultraman songs video. The important thing here is that Maki from that film was the first Dunamist for Nexus, as the show would give him 4 new Dunamister hosts. I just find it so cool to have an Ultraman show directly follow a film, as we see the same Ultraman continue to evolve alongside the people he's inspired to do good. With that in mind, it's cool to see how AU continues to be a fan favorite Ultraman OP to this day. The song especially beckons the listeners to endure all of your struggles and hardships, to grit your teeth and protect others, while at the same time continuing to pick yourself up. And then you're a hero. If you look at all the other verses, the singer's pretty much talking crap about himself for losing motivation and trying to look cool. Yet he still has to pull himself together to keep moving forward. I see it as a more direct way of inspiring people by describing mannerisms I'm sure a lot of us think whenever we're trying to get through the day. It's not exactly self-deprecation, but more so just being hard on ourselves. It's an intriguing and down-to-earth way to incite and influence people to keep pushing on, since the singer's been where we've been. For these such reasons why I love Ultraman Nexus's AU. Before we wrap up, I'd like to mention a certain legend in the Ultraman music scene, Harunobu Kageyama. Now, he's a legend across many tokusatsu communities, but notably, he wrote a song for Ultraman vs. Kamen Rider, as well as 2 songs for Ultraman Dyna. I'm bringing up Mr. Kageyama since I mentioned Dyna's Kimi Dake Momori Tai in my first video about Ultraman music. While he did not write Kimi Dake Momori Tai, he did write the songs Ultra High and Shining on Love for Our Dyna. I like to shout out how Kageyama returned to perform a total of 3 songs for Ultraman Decker, with one song in particular being a special treat, that is, Hikari Kanata. The cool thing is that this song uses samples and melodies from Dyna's opening theme, Kimi Dake Momori Tai, and Ultra High. Out of those 3 works, Kageyama only wrote Ultra High, but it's still amazing and nostalgic how he incorporated Dyna's different musical history into Decker. It's beautiful in a subtle way of bringing things full circle. These references start at about 2 minutes and 30 seconds into the song. And Hikari Kanata is a banger in of itself, and is an enchanting ending credit song for Ultraman Decker. So if there's one takeaway from this, it's that I find it genuinely charming how a song for a new Ultraman can have musical details in it from past heroes, as we see with Dyna to Decker. And it goes to show that no matter how much time has passed, there'll always be a reason to remember our favorite Ultraman songs. In conclusion, today we covered the Return of Ultraman theme song, Moebius' opening song, Light in Your Heart, Ultraman Nexus' first song, and M87 from Shin Ultraman, in addition to covering a little bit of Hikari Kanata from Ultraman Decker. I want to thank everyone for watching. For the Ultraman fans who watch my content, I have to give you a token of my appreciation, and to stay tuned, since I'm going to be releasing more Ultraman videos soon. I know I haven't been lately, but I do want to get back into that. So here's 3 videos involving Ultraman that you can be anticipating. They may not release immediately, since I have videos over other franchises I want to cover too, but they're absolutely in the pipeline. And I just want to give you guys a tease of what Ultraman topics are to come. For instance, the one about Godzilla will tie into the recent Ultraman shows and why I love tokusatsu as a whole. With that being said, let me know in the comments what your favorite Ultraman songs are, and feel free to check out my first video over this topic.
I'm alive. Why am I alive? Because every day is a tokusatsu day, which brings me to my first impressions of the newest Ultraman series, that being 2025's Ultraman Omega. Now, let me tell you, right off the bat, I enjoyed it quite a bit. A really, really solid and damn good pilot, I might add. Going into Omega, I was worried it wasn't going to be fresh, but what did I know? It turns out it was. Look at the marketing and all that, the gimmicks of his weapons, and just the tone of the show from what I saw, just trailers and all that, and some of the behind the scenes info. I was like, I don't know if I was really hooked yet, you know. Blazar was weird because of his design, and it wasn't, Blazar was not a dark show, really. It was still, an upbeat Ultraman show, but it had an interesting kind of vibe to it, a bit of a, not uncanny, but something felt unnatural in a good way, even though it was still, a pretty standard Ultraman show. And then you had Arc, and Arc was imaginative, it was really vibrant. And I really loved the dynamic that Arc and Yuma had in their respective show, right? But now we have another mainstay Ultraman director taking over again for the first time since his other work was in that Ultraman Decker. God, that was 3 years ago. But when it comes to Omega, how does it feel fresh in the end? Well, it's been a solid minute, guys, since we had a Ultraman who just made a human form. I think the last time we actually saw one in the main, story was, I guess, Reboot, maybe? Because Reboot was in Trigger and he made a human form. And then, but here we are in Omega, and our new guy, I'll just call him Omega. I know we know his human host name from all the marketing press material, but the name of this first episode, I'll just call him Omega, since he only goes by Omega. And I love how they made him, really a fish out of water, He shows up on Earth in Japan, and he kind of reminded me of how they portrayed Supergirl in the Batman, Superman Public Enemies animated film from 15 years ago. Kind of they land on Earth, they don't know what's going on, they feel very alien, and I think it worked here with Omega's character. And especially following that opening fight scene, let me tell you guys, I've talked about on this channel, or maybe on a podcast, kind of my analysis on how, it took until the late 90s, early 2000s to have Ultraman, fly CGI in a film, and then they started implementing that into TV shows slowly, new ways to make Ultraman's flying feel more real. Kind of like how we got better shots of Godzilla swimming in the late 90s and early 2000s, and until recently he looks really good swimming, and although I wish we had a suitmation again, Godzilla and him swimming, we'll get there, but Godzilla swimming, Ultraman flying looks great. Now they can do that on the TV budget of Ultraman, as we saw at the opening of Omega. We see Omega fighting off an entire, some kind of alien, Seijin, mostly kaiju army, some armada, and some half-planet looking thing. Reminded me of Cybertron a little bit. But Omega's fighting them off. We get to see his Ice Slugger, some of his hand beams, and then we got the actual new Specimen Ray that starts with an outline of a star, a 5-star. Then he shoots it at the aliens. So we got to see him use his Specimen Ray right off the bat in the opening. I love this opening. It felt grand. It felt they had a lot of budget behind it. It felt well executed. And then of course Omega gets shot out after he beats them by another, weapon the aliens had, and he falls on Earth, and that's how the series starts. So very simple, but I thought it was fresh in terms of that, There's no strike team in the show. From what little I read behind the scenes, the director of the series, the overall director, he didn't want there to be any kind of strike team or military, in the forefront, which I think was fine, Even Arc didn't really have that, besides some, JSDF tanks and a general, science team, but no military team like Blazar. But I guess in Omega, he didn't want to have that because of all the increased conflicts rising in the world right now. He just wanted to showed emphasis on people making a difference as themselves, and how you don't need to be in any kind of military faction to do that, no government, you can just be yourself and still make some kind of difference. I like that aspect. And we see that play here when Omega and the other supporting character, his name is escaping, was it Hoshimi, I think? Hoshimi, was that right? I'll double check. Because he doesn't get named till the end, just like Omega. But we see those two, they're a nice duo, right? Kind of the, like, Omega plays it straight, right? He's an alien, he's not too goofy, he takes it seriously, he's noble, stoic, I like that. Very Ultraman-like. Then, I also call him Hoshimi, new guy, supporting character, but he has a stylish life, he has an established life on Earth. And we get to see him just be like, I want to say the goofy guy, but he definitely takes a more exaggerated reaction to all of Omega's just bumbling around trying to figure out what Earth is all about. I like that. It feels really like just truly Ultraman, right? Showa Heisei Millennium, we're going to call it. They had good elements like that. I like that. It feels true to this series to have like a lot of lighthearted, fun stuff, but to go back into what I talked about there being no like strike team and focusing on humans making a difference like yourself and everyday stuff. That culminates in this episode in a little bit where Omega and Hoshimi save this girl. Like, it was after the first attack by the kaiju Graham, Graim, Graham, and they find this girl who's tugging on them, their shirt, because she was scared. She couldn't find her mother after surviving the kaiju attack, and she starts breaking down. And this is juxtaposed with a shot of these adults arguing about the kaiju and the attack, if it was real or their reaction or all that stuff. I think that's going to set up a central theme in the show that's going to relate to what we're going on in real life, especially right now. And if you ask me, even if there's so-called mature adults in the world just talking about nonsense, I think everybody still has like that scared child within them. And even if they overlook that and they try to, repress it by thinking they're in control and they have to have an attitude and, be mature adults and there's be jackasses in charge of governments everywhere, we kind of get to see how, in this shot, Omega comes over to one of the guys arguing that tries to like put the hand up, and Omega grabs him, puts it back on his hat, kind of puts him in his place, or at least kind of makes the guy, step back. And between our two duo protagonists, I kind of like this. They're the ones that can see the kids, because kids can always see things that adults don't. It's kind of another recurring motif with the Ultraman franchise. And we get that right here. I didn't expect to see that right off the bat, but that really sold this episode for me. So they pick up the little girl who was scared and they help her find her mother. And I thought that was really sweet, right? The small things is what makes Ultraman Ultraman. Because another recurring motif in the Ultraman franchise is that none of them are gods. They're not. Just normal, just people, really. Even if they're from space or from Earth, they're just people. And much like how Alien Mythos questioned Hayata in the original Ultraman, are you Ultraman or man? Are you alien or man? And Hayata would respond, I am both. So I think we're going to get that kind of theme with this show, especially. Just doesn't matter if you're from Earth or space, you're just who you are. And following that, the little girl and her mother get in trouble again once the kaiju Graham attacks. And I really like this kaiju's roar. It's really unique. It sounds like a chainsaw at the end of it. It kind of reminds me of Teleston's roar, and even Boros too. Maybe that was the influence, who knows. But we get a brand new kaiju. Once again, following Blazar, we get, just a plethora of new kaiju. So I'm excited to see some more. Different body shapes, styles, colorations, beams, stories, backgrounds. I'm excited to see it all. So we get to see Omega finally step up. We get to see him use some like Ultraman superhuman abilities in human form, which is really nice. I can't remember the last time we saw that in an Ultraman show or project. And then, wouldn't you know it, he raises his arm up and he's able to summon his Ice Slugger. That's also the transformation device, and becomes his true Omega form. Fights off Graham, and it's pretty cool. Probably not as energetic or as like Ark's first fight with Shadong, or it's not even as long as like Blazar's first fight with Bazanga, but I think this fight with Omega and Graham was really good for a first impression. Pretty good. Shows that it's a different direction, different visual style. And I don't know if you guys saw this with the subtitles, but it felt like the subtitles for English were actually, because I watch it with, the subs, they were actually like translating random signs on buildings. Like there's a parking sign, of course, I mean that's easy to read, but like other signs are not so easy to just translate from visuals alone, or it's pretty cool to see them get translated, so props to the Tsuburuya's international team for that, if that was intentional. And fight's pretty good. Finally get to see him fly after being told earlier in the show, this episode, that Omega's like, I think I can fly. And he finally flies in his Ultraman form, truly. And surprisingly, I like that he doesn't use his particular specimen ray to finish off Graham. No, because we saw that earlier, the opening fight. Instead, he uses a new Ice Slugger. Like, I'll tell you guys this. It's been 20 years since Ultraman Max, and while I haven't really watched Ultraman Max myself, I see like a similar like motif of having one be maximum, and then Omega is the ultimate. So, tell you what, I'm gonna start watching Ultraman Max in correlation of Omega, right? I'll be watching them, because like I said, the new tagline, every day is a tokusatsu day, so I'll make it happen. I'll start watching Ultraman Max as Omega is airing, and we'll see what similarities come into play, because the director of Max, I follow him on Instagram. He's been posting about Max a lot, so I'm like, might as well check out Ultraman Max with Omega releasing, and you know, why not? They're both new Ultramen that take a really like powerful stance, and they both have some kind of Ice Slugger, so perfect time I think to check out Max and Omega and see what similarities they have, because of course Omega has taken the Blazar arc approach of not really being some kind of like, you know, they're not taking inspiration from a particular Ultraman directly, like Trigger, Decker, and even Z and Taiga. They're just kind of just taking overall vibes, and if you see the connection, if you've seen the previous show, then you're gonna pick it up. That's kind of how I see it. But as it all stands, this first Ultraman Omega episode is pretty great. I like the background music. There was no opening theme song again. I think they're saving it for episode 2, but I think it's gonna be called Bright Eyes, so pretty fitting. And it's just, as for Omega himself, I like the music, like the background fighting themes, the little motifs. The direction is pretty good. I like all the shots they had when Omega in his human form first met the other protagonist. I thought that was pretty cool. A lot of like shots that kind of backed up and just let the characters kind of take the background or different angles too. I feel like I'm really excited for Omega. There's no sci-fi, no supernatural stuff on this particular Earth. A very clean slate, because of course the other shows have their own Earths, you know, different dimensions, but even Blazar and Arc, they've already like some kind of experience of weird, bizarre sci-fi fantasy. Omega, nope, it's a pretty clean slate, so I'm pretty excited, right? Some of the ideas may not be like super new, but in terms of like, you know, the Ultraman syndication of ideas coming back, we haven't seen a human-made form in a long time, so that's nice. I haven't seen like an Earth that's completely like a blank slate, so that's pretty good. And then we're just getting a new Ultraman that once again doesn't really have forms. He's gonna have power armor. This is like the third Ultraman to have power armor, so maybe we'll call Blazar, Arc, and Omega the Bao trilogy, right? B-A-O. Maybe, we'll see. But without further ado, I've been Mr. TDF. You can call me Mr. Tokusatsu Day Films for, you know, Tokusatsu, half of my channel. But let me know what you thought of Ultraman Omega. Please let me know. You happy to celebrate Ultraman Day next week once again? Let me know. And stay tuned for more of my Alien and Magma reports and Mughal review as my Ultraman new series and Godzilla retrospective series. They kind of intertwine, right? Be tuned for next week. I got more coming. And like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Watch.